In this video, I'd like to make a few responses to the responses that I got from the video about Eastern Orthodoxy recently. We explored red flag signs of cultish behavior, and obviously that upset a few folk in a kind of very reactionary way. So the comments tended to be knee jerk, labeling. I got things like modernist, Western. Well, of course, I'm Western. Globalist, subversive Catholic, said one. You subversive Catholic. It's like, listen to yourselves, please. Do you know how far we've come from the sweet gospel of Jesus Christ? How far? Did we ever even know it? So many of these converts coming into Orthodoxy, attracted by kind of, I don't know what they're attracted by, fancy beards and bling, incense and incantations. I don't know. It's all good though. Go and check it out. It's great. I enjoyed myself in Eastern Orthodoxy, and there's some great things about it. But what I was warning against is this kind of putting your head in a vice that you can't see the bigger world. I was there for a while myself, really kind of almost an enchantment had come over me. And so I was so besotted with the spirituality and the monasticism and all the rest of it that I couldn't actually just enjoy the fact that God is everywhere present, filling all things. Here's a thought for you, and I'm going to make a few more ideas here about warning signs and things to muse over, if you can. This is currently one of my favorite books, Opening the Hand of Thought, Kosho Uchiyama. They say modernist, sure, this spirituality goes back 500 years before Christ. Opening the hand of thought, because we've all got this clenched fist of ideas, Republican, liberal, Eastern Orthodox, whoa, based, whoa, yeah, whoa. We need to open that hand and look at many different aspects and angles. That's the beauty of our Western culture. And it was hard fought. A lot of people died over it. And there was a lot of blood shed to open the Western mind. Let us not close it again with this kind of radical insurgency into groups that are going to take away our identity, take away our liberty, take away our freedom to think, and instead replace it with fear that the devil's lurking behind every corner, and that everyone who's not got a big beard and is from my church is somehow suspect and shouldn't be listened to, is a modernist, a Catholic subversive. It's dangerous. It's unhealthy thinking. I was in an order for 6.5 years, a Roman Catholic one. Yes, it was under the umbrella of Roman Catholicism. So what could there be to dislike as a Roman Catholic? And yet, looking back, there was many signs of cultishness there. We were closed in, separated from the rest of the world, barely knew our neighbours, didn't know them. They lived miles away from us anyway. We weren't allowed really to have contact with our families, apart from if they made the effort to come and visit us. We had contact with them once a month, and then had to report back to the superiors what we'd said, and it was just this gradual washing of the cerebrum. And yes, we could justify it because we read the church fathers and we said, look, that's how Saint Benedict of Nursia said to do in his rule. He said, letters should be opened by the superior and you should share. And many of his successors said the same thing, but it was abused. It was abused. People nosing into your business, being treated like a child, not being allowed to grow and be oneself. And I'm not saying that's all over Orthodoxy. I'm just saying be careful with it. Be careful that you're not thinking, I've got to share every thought that I'm having. Like a monk. You're not a monk. And even if you are a monk, you won't be listening to this, I'm sure, but this kind of blind obedience, we used to pray for it in seminary. Señor, danos la obediencia ciega, using, St. Ignatius of Loyola's thing. Oh, Father. The Catholics would say, infallible. No. Just a man of his time, product of his time, who's had money behind him and power, and the hagiographers had bothered to airbrush his life into something, crazily impressive. But he was on a journey like all of us. And, as fantastic as the lives of the saints may be, that's not my life. I have to live my life. They're no different from me. They breathed the same air. They went to the toilet the same as me. They slept the same as me. That's it. So I want to get back to this idea of, this cultish faith in the spiritual father. It's a very, very strong tradition in Eastern Orthodoxy. And if they want to go down that road, go down that route. That's fine. I have done myself. However, just a few caveats. I think any dialogue with a spiritual father that involves just you being told what to do, right? Okay, do this, do that, go to monastery, right? Okay, do this, say these prayers. Okay, and what is this? Why were we given this? Why were we given the heart? What? It should be a dialogue, obviously, and there should be a feeling that you're meeting in a level playing field. If it's too much like this, I'm the great father, you're the little bambino. This is unhealthy. This is very unhealthy. Look at Matthew, is it 21? It's around that. Jesus warns, call no man your father. One alone is your father. You're all to be brothers. And if there isn't that sense of brotherhood, looking back when I was in an order, there was a fear about some of the superiors, that we were afraid of them. They carried themselves with this big aura of untouchability, like gangsters. And we were all supposed to, si padre, si padre. Nonsense. There should be a sense of communal, okay, I disagree with you, Father, and okay, we disagree. Let's have it out. Let's work this through. Let's roll up the sleeves. Are we brothers or are we not brothers? Don't expect God to simply give the word to any man for you without you looking for it yourself. I think that would be my experience over the years. Take it or leave it. I know. Who am I? But at the end of the day, that's been my experience. I'll give you an example. When I was in Rome, for years, I was in Spain, I was hearing spiritual fathers say to me things like, a particular spiritual father, stay in the order, stay in the order. You only leave here 2 feet in front. Keep going, keep going. And I'd say, look, I don't think this is for me. Adelante, keep going, keep going. In the end, as I said in the first video, he did a shoot. He left. We didn't tell me. After years of just giving me a party line. So beware of the party line. And then I started, when I was in Rome, I was able to go to other people, go to confession with different priests, and one would say, you're nearly a priest, keep going. Another would say, look, dude, you've only got private vows. I could absolve you from them right now. I could release you from them right now. Another would say something else. And I began to see there was a cacophony of voices. One can't necessarily think the voice of the superior is the voice of God. The voice of the spiritual father is the voice. It's not as simple as that. Yes, God can speak through people, like God speaks through school children when you're in a lesson, but not always. Sometimes they just speak rubbish. And it's the same with spiritual fathers. So, and if we've got this excessive deference to certain people, is it healthy? Or are we putting our brains in the dustbin? Are you allowed to question? Are you expected to question and investigate things for yourselves? Or are you only encouraged to read a certain type of literature from a certain church and everything else is of the devil? Everything else is suspect. So have your critical thinking skills atrophied significantly during your stay in this church? Has your ability, your perception of your ability to contact God and receive and share God's grace? God is at all times present, filling all things. Eastern Orthodox say it in your daily prayers. What does that mean in practice? Do you understand that God is all times present, filling all things, filling you, filling me, filling Everyone, not just your spiritual father, not just those with the magic hands, with, who've gone through certain rituals, but it is in all times and all places present. Do you still believe that you have the ability to share God's grace, to bless the world as a priest? That's what the Bible tells you. That's what the New Testament arrives at. That you look at the priesthood throughout the Old Testament and New Testament. That's the culmen. That's the high point. Is that we are all priests, and that actually no one is now a priest. Jesus is the great high priest in heaven, and that we are the priestly people. I've done videos on that in the past, and check that out. Again, you can hold that lightly and still remain Eastern Orthodox, still show deference to the priests and all the rest. But as long as you don't realize, as long as you not be thinking they are ontologically different to me, they are a different species to me. No, we're all Christians walking, we're all brothers. That's what Jesus teaches. Do we think, oh, well, I can't say prayers for people and with people. That's the job of the priest. I just repeat standard formulas from my book of liturgy. Have you changed your name? And did you ask your parents who lovingly gave you a name? The Hare Krishnas and the Moonies did that, decades before. And yeah, okay, then you've changed your name, but how do you wear that? What does that mean? That new identity, that new name? What was wrong with your old name? What was wrong with it? Do you despise the West? Have you bought into all that rubbish about, the West is dead and the West is evil and suspect and globalist and blah, blah, blah? Is your religion more about politics and reactionarism rather than a deep and meaningful discipleship with Jesus? I'm not the only one to lament at the fact that the internet seems awash with orthodoxy, Eastern Orthodoxy, Roman Catholic traditionalism, rather than, how do we genuinely follow Jesus Christ and his message principally? Yes, Paul, yes, Augustine, yes, the fathers and blah, blah, blah. These are after the fact. Jesus Christ, first and foremost. Are you looking for Gandalf the Grey to fix all your problems? We've already mentioned that, but just to come back to it. A spiritual father to tell you exactly what you have to do. So why did God then give you a brain? Do you think that the real heroes are those that retreat from society rather than bless and build it on a daily basis? What is the one, Jesus, God himself in Genesis, he created marriage, he blessed it and commanded people, multiply and fill the earth. That's why the Jews never had really, this fixed, monasticism and enforced celibacy. It's done an awful lot of damage on aggregate to people and to people's psyches. God made sex. God made sex. So, do you think that being a vegan twice a week is really that important? Like a salvation issue? I could be outside the church if I don't keep this rule. And do you dare to even question it? Because you've had sublime feelings in this particular church, say on a retreat or in a liturgy, do you think that anything they tell you just has to go? Well, it has to be true then. Tears flowed. I felt sublime, felt like I could touch God in this particular church. So anything they teach must be true. The Bible was written in the Bronze Age, a large part of it. And in the times of the Romans, like humanity's come a long way. And we know that there's definitely legends in there, myths, stories borrowed and represented from the Mesopotamian era and from the Chaldeans and all the melting pot of the Near East. We know that, and to deny it is to bury one's head in the sand. simply because one's had sublime feelings in a church does not mean that everything that church teaches is infallible. If I go to a yoga studio, I can have sublime feelings. I can feel absolutely amazing. It doesn't mean to say I'm becoming a Hindu and changing my name to Govinda. That's another thing. Sense of blooming humor. Put the fun back into your fundamentalism, lest we end up with some, you know what I mean, fundamentalist nonsense. You know, it's not Western. Concepts, concepts, concepts. And there is no space between the concepts. You're always wrestling with one set of concepts or another. What about finding God in the quiet space, in the open hand of thought? That's why I really love Zazen, because it opens the mind. It's been closed and clenched by too much systematic theology. Do you think that Mount Athos is fuller of God, is more filled with God than your bedroom, than your house, than your workplace? Yes, okay, you know, there's the activity of God in these places that's been going on for centuries. But is God more present in these places? Can an infinite, all-present God be more or less present somewhere? You don't dare to play devil's advocate and explore things like the anti-Semitism of the church fathers, of many of the church fathers, John Chrysostom, to mention one, but many of the early church fathers. And yes, we can extend that to Martin Luther and all the rest of them. And what one actually finds is that there's precious few perfect saints in this world, that nobody's perfect. You know, nobody is perfect. We're all 80%, say the Japanese, because that's how nature is. If you go into a beautiful forest or a woodland, you find that nothing's perfect in a woodland. Everything is weather beaten. Some trees are snapped in half by the wind, etc. There's moss, there's mold, there's contortion and twisting and damp and all kinds of things. And all of it is part of the panorama of life. And if that sounds airy-fairy to you, then let it sound airy-fairy, Mr. Concrete, Mr. Concept. The conceptual mind is only a part of the brain. It's the left-hand side of the brain that does all of that. What about the other side that, you know, experiences reality? I believe, for what it's worth, you know, traditions like Eastern Orthodoxy can do a sterling job of getting to that place, the place of the deep heart, the place of stillness and silence. It's just unfortunate that many people are adopting a kind of a flag-waving approach, a superficial approach, a nationalistic approach, or a reactionary political approach to orthodoxy. And it's probably because they're young, impressionable, and probably angry. Do you bother to do things like investigate the corruption within your church? Do you question the fact that monasteries and churches, although they profess to be holy and profess to be ascetical, etc., are often extremely wealthy, are often extremely comfortably well off financially with big bank accounts, sitting on large piles of cash while large parts of the world starve? Again, there's nothing wrong with opening the hand of thought and looking at things from multiple angles, asking difficult questions. Are you in a church which promotes difficult questions, or are you seen to be some form of black sheep or persona non gratis if you do raise these questions? And who's got the answers? Is there an expert in the room with all the answers? Or are you discovering the answers together in a circle of inquiry? If you found that, you found gold. You look to the hesychasts, to those that look like wizards in the modern, today, and the wonders of the medieval era, the myths and legends of the medieval period, rather than to the simple gospel message of Jesus, who convened no councils, and gave no special titles or outfits to anyone. Apostles, apostole, being sent out, those who he sent out. There was his disciples. It was a rabbi thing. He was a rabbi. He had his group of men who walked in his footsteps. He taught one prayer, pray to God the Father. And nor did this Jesus of Nazareth make a big deal out of rituals. He just didn't. Right at the end of his life, boom, there's the Eucharist, chaps. Last Supper, it's a meal. We've made it what we've made it. Our ancestors have made it what it's been made. And yes, we are hungry for ritual. We are hungry for something fancy, something beautiful in an ugly world, something restorative and all the rest of it. But just remember, we're following a Jesus who died naked on a cross, murdered at the age of 33. With no time in his life to draw up big fancy blueprints for a Byzantine church or a Roman Catholic church. These are the, one can say, okay, well, this is the evolution in the Holy Spirit, but let's not pretend that that's just what Jesus Christ himself set up, because it's just not on his lips. It's not in the pages of his book. He didn't write any books. What else? So, do we think we're going to fit God into our 3-pound brains? Do we think we're going to fit the immensity of God and have it all sewn up in our 3-pound brains? Do we think anyone is? Well, the ones with the cool beards and the nice ring and the cross on and they're ever so calm and talk like that? No, that doesn't, a congress of fallible humans doesn't make them infallible. 1 million fallible humans aren't infallible. So, the church fathers are humans just like us. They made mistakes, and that's why we need to continue rolling up our sleeves like the Israel of the Old Testament who wrestles. I love that, the idea that you've got Jacob and Esau, and Jacob wrestles with the angel of God all night long. And he gets the new name of Israel because you have wrestled with God and overcome. You have wrestled in the presence of God. You've not just accepted like a sheep all the easy questions. I remember asking a monk some time ago, an Orthodox monk some time ago, about something. I wasn't asking. I was having a conversation, a theological conversation, and it turned quite unpleasant, because it didn't fit the narrative. I don't want that kind of thing in my life. I want a circle of inquiry. I want open-mindedness. I want to be able to investigate reality deeply and not have this idea of fear being thrown in at every corner. The devil's coming after you. Oh, you're under, illusion and delusion and blah, 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 because we say so. Work that one out for yourselves, but it doesn't make sense to me. The devil and the demons are not out of control, forces in the world that God just with, this ever so benign, gentle Father in the sky can't quite organize and control. That's not how you ask the Jews, that's not how they see it. That's not how the Torah sees it. That's not how the Tanakh sees. That's not how Jewish converts into the Christian faith see the devil and the demons, because it's just not. That's Manichaeism. That's dualism. That's the battle of Zoroastrianism, the eternal battle of good versus evil, and that evil is somehow out of control. No, this life is a school of life, a school of learning, and it's okay. I'm a teacher. I've been for decades. It's okay to learn. It's okay to ask questions, even uncomfortable ones. And it's okay sometimes to be, deluded for a while. God is good. He's not going to throw you into a pit of hell for all eternity for asking questions and sincerely searching for the truth. And if that's not encouraged in your church, it's cultish behavior. Whether it's Roman Catholic or Eastern Orthodox, they're the two I've got the most experience of. I've had it in Catholicism too. People say to me, well, you've converted to Catholicism. You can't question it now. You should have questioned it before you became one. Nonsense. We're always growing. We're always growing. Stamp a label on people and say, job done. Every religion, every denomination interacts and is molded one by the other. No man is an island. No church is an island. The Eastern Orthodox country and the Eastern Orthodox Church in this country is being fed and blessed by churches like the Anglican Church, the Baptist Church, so they're giving them property, space to have their meetings and liturgies, blessing them with cheap rents, places to live for their priests, etc., blessing them with converts, but also blessing them with the ideas that are in the mindset which we've nurtured and have and enjoy in the West, which is open-mindedness, discourse without violence. There are some parts of the world where simply to critique or ask certain questions, a professor gets thrown out of a window or gets killed for it. Do we want that kind of reality in the West? Judging by some of the comments, some of you would. And it's anything but Christian. It's a religion that just becomes a drawbridge against the world, and that just becomes a weapon of hate and division. At the end of the day, we miss God. It's almost like that. We talk about opening the hand of thought once again to promote this wee book. We say, we're chasing the midgie, chasing the mosquito, chasing the mosquito. I've got him. Only to open the hand. He's not there. We missed him. That's how it is with the proliferation of words, concepts, and categories. We miss it. We clench the hand of thought, and we've missed it. And I'm aware that I'm just skirting around reality here necessarily because it's the left brain, the map maker, doing its business. And ultimately, if I want to really grasp God, I do it with a sincere heart, with simple prayer, and enter into silent presence, whether I feel it or not. It's not about whether my 3-pound brain can capture God. It's about simply sitting and being with a God who is within us and without us, filling all things. I'll leave it there. Hopefully that's helpful. But again, just to reiterate, I'm not bad-mouthing any specific church. I've got great time for the Eastern Orthodox. If there was a liturgy close by, I would sincerely go to it on a Sunday, for the blessings of it and the prayers of it. But I'm not about to put my head in a vice of very narrow-minded thinking and be told what I can and cannot do, what I can and cannot read, and who I can and cannot fellowship with, and kissy kiss, deference to people in authority. It just doesn't work for me. I've seen that abused too many times, mostly in Roman Catholicism, because that was my main experience, but also to some extent, wherever you give human beings too much power and too much deference, there will be abuse. And there's, how is there supposed to be this humility that they profess when they're having their hands kissed, people kneeling before their presence and all the rest of it? And it's like, hold on a second. We not just tell the people, look, give over that. We're all brothers. We're all going to work at this out together. And why is it that somebody who's got a little white collar on, whatever appearance, and, was made a priest after maybe a year sometimes, or jumped straight into the church as an Anglican or whatever and was made a priest, an Anglican convert priest or whatever. And for the rest of your life, then they're priest with all the answers. And meanwhile, you've maybe been on the path yourself for decades, and nobody cares. Nobody, and there isn't that sense of brotherhood. There's a sense of pecking order. Kingdom of the world, chaps. kingdom of the world is within the church too. So we just need to keep our critical thinking and open, not even the rational brain criticizing and categorizing, but just opening the hand of thought. Is that so? Keeping that beginner's mind and not the clenched hand of, I've got all the concepts, I've got it all mapped out, thank you very much. God is greater than our closed fist of ideas. And then we might just see God actually knocking on the doors of our hearts and saying, hey, I'm the mosquito that got away. There's more. God bless. Hope that's helpful.